Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening or good morning, depends where you are. 2022, which we have entered, is the beginning and end of many things that we were wishing for and we are hoping for. Religious leaders and the governments are aware of it, and we'll hear more and more of it. And something very interesting has happened, because you got to understand we emphasize a lot on the Iranian situation because there is a reason for it. There's a huge reason why in past year we have paid a lot of attention to the peace talks in Vienna and what's going on in Iran. In all the religions we had up to now, we always spoke about the Messiah or whatever, return of Christ or whatever. We never had a reference point of time and place as a bloodline. In the Shia world is specific, which comes from the bloodline of Muhammad Mehdi, the 12th Imam. An interesting point is that the Iranian religious leaders have become fully aware of what is about to happen, and are preparing the nation for it in a very subtle way. And the same thing is happening in Vatican and behind the doors and the things which are taking place in shape. But what is interesting is this shot has been sent to me by a number of Iranian Azar and others, but it's very significant. You have to understand the significance of this announcement by the what we call Iran National Television, the head of the national television. It's in Farsi, and if any of the Iranians would like to translate it, this has happened in the past few days. I'll read it for you in a very simple way. The Iran head of television, which is fully controlled by the government, announced that we do our best that the Iranian television will have the right that to broadcast the appearance of the Mehdi, or we buy the rights to show when Mehdi appears from whoever has it. It means Iranian national television for 2022 is preparing the citizens to be ready to witness the manifestation of the promised one. And this announcement, official announcement by the government of Iran, which is extremely religious, that the Iranian television will do its best to buy the television rights on the time showing the manifestation of the Mehdi. So we expect Mehdi to appear this year. And this is part of what Vatican in the background is preparing, and the same thing we know is happening in Jerusalem. So when we talk about these things, we have to understand a lot of people in the background are preparing for what we call the ultimate appearance and what we call the end of all the problems, as we call it, and we are heading in that direction. A number of religious leaders around the world, and especially sections in Iran, religious section, they are announcing 21st, 22nd of what we call February as to be one of the possible manifestations of the promise. And in Iran, a special religious military has been set up in the city of Qom to be prepared to defend once he appears. They are ready to lay their lives down to support him and protect him on his manifestation. And we'll see that we are entering the phase of once we reach peace, what do we do next? The next thing is who's going to claim first has had the promised one and can show it. And this is very interesting. What is to come? And we are the second day of this Christian calendar, but the whole appearance of Mitra and in the dimensions we talked about has to be a dimension of the birth of Mitra in a dimension of the soul, a physicality dimension, birth to a physical dimension time, which means a time which we can refer and connect to. The birth of Christ, the way we have it and is set up, is all summing up, adding up. There's no specific date. It's just put near to and be within the what we call the Catholic Church, or what we call the 25th of December, closest to the what we call the birth of Mitra. And it's very interesting that according to what is coming out of religious quarters, even from the Buddhist side, this year will be the year where the promised one will manifest itself. But we've got to wait and see how and what shape, and to who will come to be accepted. And it's very, very interesting. And we hear the same kind of talks from different part of religious world that they are waiting for 2022. It's the year that went ahead of a most, what do you call, religious nation in the Islamic world announces they're ready to buy the copyright. They don't claim that it will be in Iran. They're prepared to buy the rights to show the manifestation of the promise. As always said, watch the space, and we'll see what comes up this year. And how, where the soul of the man, the soul of the creator, and the soul of the physicality of the man, which can be pinned and positioned to date, has achieved and will be achieved. It will be very interesting. Birth of Mitra, 21st of what we call December, is in the elevation of the soul. It's the level of the soul. Now we look at the manifestation board, the physicality and the dimension. And now we see what comes up in the next 12 months, if what is being said and what we think will take shape and will bring us to the next step. And for sure, as far as we know, the North American continent will have a big role to play in this manifestation. massively big part. And this process will and has started from this week. And you will come to understand very soon then the reasons we work, we operated through Arizona and the rest. Thank you very much.
I know you said there was another cycle ready to take place in the February 22nd. It looks like it's coinciding with something in Iran on the 21st to 22nd of February. Was that the time frame? Is this the new cycle of another cycle of enlightenment? I know you said you're not going to wait for man to come along, but in a way, the process of enlightenment is starting to happen for all of us?
We are going in that direction. One of the, we are pushing to create a condition and with it to bring a position. And it has to come from what we call not only governing nations, but from religious nations too. You got to realize the importance of these kind of announcements, the importance of explaining other teachings of the Keshe Foundation. What does it mean when, just what we saw on the screen, the national television or worldwide the televisions will show the claim or the manifestation of the promised one? The implication of it is huge. First of all, the minute they do, and it's shown on national televisions like in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Vatican, in Jerusalem, or where Buddhists have the central position, this means the end of all the religions at that point and instant. You cannot be a Muslim anymore. You cannot be a Christian anymore. You can't be a Jew and you cannot be Buddhist. What do you call yourself at that point? Because the promise of Mehdi is fulfillment of the religion. And now what are you? What do you become? And you're all waiting for that point. And that point is when you become one race. It's the promise of the promised one. Now we understand why we call it one nation, one race. Because at that point when they fundamentally accept that the promised one in all dimension directions of all the religions confirmed, we can't be any more member of any religious sect. It's the end of Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran and Islam. It's the end of the Vatican and Pope. It's the end of the chief rabbi in Jerusalem and the same in other parts. Then we become one, and this is what we promised. Then we become one race with no religion, but believe in the Creator through us all. And that's the point of change. And we know Ayatollah Khamenei is preparing Iran for this move. And we know Vatican is on the same position. Don't forget, in the past, the Pope said he'll be the last Pope. Because when Mehdi is here, or the promised one, what's the position of Ayatollahs? What is the position? There is no more position. You cannot be higher than what you promised to become. And then you understand why you become one nation. Because religions don't exist anymore. Nation of man, nation of one planet, as one race, will become what we promised. Now you understand, Mehdi is already here. You have become part of it without knowing it. But in time, we strive to achieve it for more to understand. Then we'll see, as I said in a very recent teaching, end of religions, because all the religions promise the coming of the promised one, and when the promised one is there, they have no position and no place. Then what are we going to do with all these buildings? Man has chosen to call it the churches, the mosques and temples or whatever. One day become the centers of teaching about the soul, teaching about the new knowledge. And what are we going to do with millions of priests, mullahs and rabbis who have no more position? Because the guidance of the soul of every man comes through the soul, not through the church or the book. Because the promise of all books is fulfilled. He cannot teach any more verses of Bible to anyone because it's fulfilled. Now he will read from this first book, from the new book of man. You have not realized what is really has hit you as a human race. The juggernaut, fully laden knowledge. And when it hits you, none of you understand it. It melts you to the soul. Just about to come. And it'll come very, very soon, sooner than you think.
Wow, very humbling. Very, very humbling. Does that mean our work is finished? Or it's just beginning? I'm very glad to hear this beautiful news. And I'm sure everyone else is too. Why are the leaders, will they gather in sort of a conference and together, or would they announce this individually? I think it would be more powerful if they gathered and they all agreed in front of everyone. Of course, we'll have the individual clips, I'm sure. And why does the Mehdi have to be protected? I'm sure there are some that may want to continue with the abuse, I would suppose. And we did play that in that little clip. You said if you knew what was happening to man, you would weep. And I was thinking that in a way, in a negative way, like there were some bad things that were going to happen, but now it's the good things that are going to happen that would make us weep.
You got to realize that in that point, when they get the rights to show the what we call appearance of the promised one, which is the king of the kings, which is then there is no man on this planet can call himself a king. How can you proclaim to be a king and be a Christian be king and be a Muslim, and your religion accepts the king of the king has appeared, and you still claim yourself to be a king. We promise we'll bring the kingship to an end. And now you understand how. This is another part of the whole equation which will be fulfilled. There shall be no king when the king has appeared. When he appeared in the form of Christ, you put a crown of thorn on his head. This time, which king is going to put his crown down and wear the thorn to be servant to what is appeared? You cannot be a king when what you worship to. We see the world leaders from the United States, we see in the very recent past to go to Vatican to pay homage and respect to Pope and to what is the guardian of the promised one to come. When he says, my leader has come and that's the end of the term, how can President Biden claim to be a world leader? Or any of the presidents of the world claim to be kings? It brings a lot of things in order. And 2022 is a possible time. And many of you knowledge seekers have worked towards it, and you have put your souls in it, and you will see it. You will feel it before it comes, many of you. You will receive the message very soon, just before. And then it's the level of enlightenment, what you understand from the message you receive. It will be the end of kingship, it will be the end of the religion, because by accepting, as we saw, the head of government accept, which is both religious and a power, that what they promised, ultimate power, and they read what we call it, the promised one comes, they have no position. They'll take the ropes off. You will not see any mullahs or ayatollahs on the streets of palaces of Iran or in Vatican or in Jerusalem. Because the problem comes when the Islamic world claims the Mahdi is here, and then the Christians have to confirm it, or they deny it, or they have to join it, and as the masses takes over, all the people believe in one and it becomes one. We just open the door and the flood, and we'll see how we'll drown your souls with it. Then you understand. I said we gradually open up, and tonight became to open a very big door for many of you to understand. And the religious leaders know, the religious schools who study the books the correct way, they know it, all waiting for it. We'll see. Who do you bow to when you go to Vatican? When the man you bow to himself bows to the Creator. The same will go with those who plan to create mayhem here. And that's why, even if you go back a few weeks ago, I said it's the end of Rothschild. As they bow to Jerusalem, Jerusalem bows to the Mahdi or Messiah or Mashiach. You will see the new structure will take shape very rapidly. Some people will fight it. Some people will go for it. In a very recent presentation, again on the Iranian channel, one of the religious leaders said, if Mahdi comes and what he says in the not benefit of Islamic Republic of Iran, we kill him, we get rid of him. already planned. Means they have no job. How can they stand it? I can't even play the video of it for you to hear it. It's a very, very interesting time to come. And he hasn't started. If they are ready and are instructing their medias to prepare the nation, then they'll say, we told you, we got the rights to announce.
Well, I'm not sure where we should go from here. Azar, would you like to come in if you're still here? She's not.
Mr. Keshe, hello everybody. Hello, Mr. Keshe. May I ask you, it is true, I read yesterday in a newspaper in Romania that Iran launched a spaceship flight for scientific purpose. And France is very unhappy with this. It is true, or it's just an article in a newspaper? Thank you.
Iran traditionally, whenever there is a 5+1 meeting, tries to launch a satellite or a rocket or something to show that they are stepping up their technology. And past few days, they tried to launch a satellite rocket to go to a given orbit, and it just fell short of that orbit. But shows for the first time Iran has entered officially to what we call launching satellites into orbit. And again, it's partially Russian technology. And this puts Iran in a very, very different position. France is not happy with it because they just sold 14 billions of arms to Emirates, which they don't even know which airport they're going to put it in, what land they're going to protect with. And there is a big argument about it. And the same is the big contract with United Arab Emirates and the United States, which has now become invalid. But yes, they tested, and this is very normal. Every time we enter negotiation 5+1, Iranian military launches some sort of new rocket or new missile this further distance than before. And now they put, they try to put satellite into 470 plus kilometers, but they just short down the limit.
Thank you very much.
What will be very interesting is how the communist states, like, which are supposedly not to believe in religion, will fall into this pattern of work of becoming part of or becoming in line with the rest. And this is really very interesting to watch and what we are observing, how we know Russia now is not a communist state, but whatever we call it is more what we call Christian state. But it will be very interesting to see nations with cold missiles come from North Korea, China, and a few others will follow the path. But don't forget, they have different ways of belief, not in the name of religion, but Chinese readers have a different pattern of belief and more or less the same through different ways. They still believe in the creator and whatever they do. It'll be very interesting to watch what is about to happen in the next few months and years to come. Where would the cookie crumble with the religions? And which religion will crumble first that the next in a domino effect for the others to fall? And we promise you, the nation of Iran will be the first cookie.
Mr. Keshe, what will be the position of the knowledge seekers, since we've been following your teachings for a number of years, many more for some and some less for the others? Will you be teaching worldwide at that point, once this is confirmed by all the different states and religions?
We never stop teaching. Very recently, one of the world leaders has said we're giving up trying to kill him. And we tried everything. We don't stop teaching, because once the one nation structure sets as one race, a new energy, a new cycle of understanding is needed. Putting down the animosities, walking away from hatred, needs to be uprooted from the blood of the man, and needs time for it to teach to go back to. You remember what the Christ said, maybe for the first time you understand in other ways. By the time the animal sings, you'll deny me 3 times.
Cock crows, yes.
Exactly. Man will then that has a religious meaning, not just as what you stated to me. Mankind will go back, try to go back to the time of animosity to keep alive. And we have to bring it back to line again. This is the 3rd time. It won't be easy. A lot of organizations, a lot of people who believed, a lot of people who see their livelihood being in danger, they will go against the grain. But the masses will carry. Knowledge seekers are no different than anyone. The only problem you have is you receive the enlightenment and you had time to analyze. So when the time comes, should not take long. You already have followed the Mehdi for long enough. And you become aware of it within yourself. So then you become the teachers. It's not that all the factories will stop and everybody will honeycomb from the sky. We live, we carry on the same way of living, but in a different way. In a totally different. My cycle is a cycle of peace and happiness and joy, and enough for everyone to have, not just on this planet. So as knowledge seekers, you already received your light. It's just that how you see it to guide you through, and how you can guide the others to become one nation. And then the rest will take shape.
Will the energy pack problem start to dissolve itself this year as well?
What do you mean?
Well, the problem that we've all been facing with the inoculations and so on, will this slowly come to an end, or
You see,
go?
I sat in front of a medical doctor very recently, and I explained to him what a virus is. And he said, this fulfills what we didn't know. And now we know, and it makes sense. So when the world of science understands the report of June 20th of 2020 about the corona, which is in the hand of the world leaders, do you think there'll be need for such a thing? Would there be a need for such actions? Or would we find a total solution for man in a space, how to deal with energy packs? Then we apply it here. As I said very recently, man thinks once you understand this technology, you live forever. A neutron does not live forever, and it has a cycle. Some longer, some shorter, some for millions of years. So at the end of it, there is always division and a demise for any packs of energy. Be it the soul of the man, be it the physicality of the man. It's just how we make the best of it to give and elevate the others from what we receive. That's all it counts. And at the end of it, once the world of science understands the implication of the way we explain the virus to be as an energy pack attaching itself to amino acid of the man, do we need to create more fake things, or do we need to accept and understand how to interact with it? So these things will come to an end very, very soon. We have created a huge dilemma for American government in past few weeks and in the coming week. we have a reliable, not reliable, we have a first-hand confirmation. For the first time, Pentagon has back cache validation for the first time. The Pentagon, for the first time, have back cache validation to be spread around the world. And up to now, it's always at the point to be stopped, or at least kept under control. You will understand very soon. We are not American based, we have nothing to do with Americans, but Pentagon have taken the red to yellow, as we call it, for cache validation in the past 2 weeks. And we all know how it happened.
Yes, in the last couple of weeks or maybe even longer, I don't know if you've ever seen the picture of the ants when they're traveling and then they come to a river or a body of water and they want to cross over to the other side, maybe to the promised land and so on. And then some ants, they sort of build or connect with one another and they make a bridge across the body of water so that the others could walk on top of them in a way and reach the other side. And I was thinking, this is kind of like what the knowledge seekers are doing in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense, but sort of laying down so that we could make a way for the others to pass through. I don't know why that's come to me, but it just had. I think Mr. Keshe is in a good mood and he's willing to share. I don't know if anyone would like to open anything up or. Alex, I know you've prepared something, but obviously this is quite exciting. This is the year when things are about to move in a major way across this planet. And I know I've been wishing for it for a long, long time. Not that long, but I mean, number of years, let's say. And I'm so glad that it's happened here. I thought I was going to have to create a new cycle and get permission from the creator to create a world of peace and harmony where no one goes to bed hungry or cold. But now I see it's manifesting right before all of us, and we're all part of it. So it's very beautiful that we could even be here. But our souls have brought us here, all of us. So feel proud, as Mr. Keshe said, that you've been touched by this knowledge, the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation. Would anyone else like to come in, perhaps?
Yes, good evening. This is Stefania.
Hello.
Good evening. I just would like to make a question to Mr. Keshe. Just because just want to understand better. So these three centers, no, they're gonna open up space center, one in Arizona, one in Tehran, and one in the one in Austria. Which people are you looking for to develop those centers? Do you look at scientists, doctors? I don't know if you can go deep into that, but how, or you look collective of everyone? to develop these centers?
Initially, we'll call on a number of knowledge seekers which we know are enlightened to join us in different centers. Then, at the same time, we have already approached a number of space organizations to join us for further development, if they want to join us. We are not waiting for any government or any authorities to allow us to go into the next step. But as Keshe Space GmbH has become a company in Austria, and at the same time, Keshe Spaceship Institute now is officially signed into a company, we operate on the franchise from the two to operate in other countries as a, not a name, but as a commercial entity. And in that process, we approach scientists, or we open the panel for those who can bring the science of the space development. There are a lot of knowledge seekers who are very enthusiastic to help, to be part of it, but they don't carry the knowledge. They don't carry the know-how, and maybe their enthusiasm or what they know will be good somewhere in the future as part of the work of the development. But we have a target. We are directly in negotiation with governments and the space agencies. And by them coming in, we have entered a different dimension. The biggest problem was to get the flight system into position in different countries, which is getting done this month. Hopefully in January, just before Chinese New Year, the first flight unit will be positioned in the 3 nations. And then every week we add 1 more unit to each center. And in that process, we bring a number of knowledge seekers. For sure, Alex Jalan, Alex from Nigeria, a number of other knowledge seekers will be invited to join the Keshe Foundation work in different continents. And we have a list of people who we know will make the difference in teaching the new scientists coming from the present space agencies to understand our work. We have a list of number of knowledge seekers which will make an offer to, on a way, what we call salary-based work to join the Keshe Foundation. And primarily to teach the scientists, for them not just to understand the gas technology, but to understand the essence of transfer of fields and energies and what it means. We put the scientists from all the agencies on a crash course of a few days and weeks, depends how fast they go with it, and they all have a target. And by 21st of March, the system should be operable, functionable through their own understanding, even though we give them the basic systems. The number of Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers in institutes and universities and space agencies is a lot. It's not that we just bring blind people with no knowledge into, we bring a lot of knowledge seekers who've been hidden in the space agencies. Head of NASA propulsion, head of NASA mission for Mars 2030. These are all heads of the divisions of NASA and are all knowledge seekers. very, very deep knowledge seekers. The head of Russian space program, knowledge seeker. Chinese heads of the space program, knowledge seekers who are aware of fully of the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation. Is just bringing the last touches and bringing it in a way. Up to now they worked in hidden, we bring them into open. Some of them are good friends, long-term friends. Head of NASA propulsion, plasma propulsion, is very, very close and familiar to Keshe Foundation. NASA missions, most of them are close to Keshe Foundation work. Just waiting for NASA to release it. Boeing, the same. Lockheed Martin, the head of weapons strike command, Lockheed Martin, are close knowledge seekers. You got to realize that if any of you have the capability, or you can do the translation from Chinese, you easily should have seen what we released a couple of times and with the Keshe Foundation. We are, as part of the structure of the Chinese space program, I'm sure Chinese officials in the background will not be unhappy. This is a billboard on the streets of China. I open it up for you. You see? Can you see it?
Yes.
This is billboard on the streets of China. This is, if you can read the top in Chinese, China National Space University. And some of the leading space scientists are in this line. And are more deeply committed to Keshe Foundation space program than Alex and Jella. I teach at the university. Only foreigner. And when you look at this picture, you've seen before, we are in China space zone. And you see how we are protected. Some of these are fully armed officers of Chinese Special Secret Service forces. We are well respected. It's the same process as we said. When that promised time comes, our knowledge is already accepted. And we know who to go for and who to get in touch with. And which scientists to call to be there.
I suppose, Mr. Keshe, the scientist has to be with nuclear and space background, or
Oh, we are not saying anything. We are not saying.
any? Mhm.
It'll be decided primarily by the government, and priority sits with, and we know will sit with national defense, many of them. We don't disclose how we will operate. That will be foolish to do, but we see the European community will be kept out of it in a way, but operating through Austria is still part of it till we sort out the situation with the state of Belgium. We've been very blunt with the government.
So, because I got a group of Italian scientists who they're very interested. So the best way is to refer it to
Being
the
interested, being interested does not fulfill the criteria.
They don't understand very well what need to be done. They don't understand because they're new to the. They know the plasma. They've been using the plasma during the pandemic. They were actually follow the Keshe.
No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
First of all,
yeah,
if anybody approaches us, there'll be a team of experts will assess their credibility, credentials. Secondly, we moved out of the way that I or somebody else in Keshe Foundation will decide. Keshe Foundation has brought in a team of consultants outside the framework of the Keshe Foundation. People who know nothing about Keshe Foundation. And we operate under that regime. We trusted knowledge seekers, and we got well betrayed by knowledge seekers. Any knowledge seekers which I thought one-to-one has stabbed us in the back as heavy as they could. Once they learned, once they understood, they said, we don't need you, we got there, it's ours, and we see how they pay. I can give you a number of names. Now we bring a specialist, and they cost a lot of money, but this time we are independent. Knowledge seekers have a lot of good hearts, they want to do the best. They don't carry the expertise, or very few carry a fair part of it. Now consulting groups come in, they employ or they accept people to be, unless they come through the government. It's a we learn our lessons. If you look into what you call, it's a common knowledge, we are not telling you anything outside to break the law. If you go into the structure of the mark rate in the United States, wasn't done by knowledge seekers, and you run into all sorts of problems. Just open the mark rate and see, since June of this year, we brought a team of experts from outside the Keshe Foundation. That primarily their job is and was to bring mark rate into international standard work of the stock market. And if you look, since September of this year, these specialists have brought all the work of the Keshe Foundation as what we call knowledge, know-how, and the work of the market by reporting into the market frequently, and even as 14th of December of this year, the third quarter. For years, we waited for knowledge seekers who were supposed to do things to do it, never got anywhere. It cost the foundation a lot of money, but we financed, we supported the public company to put his books in order by bringing in a specialist, and we've seen the result. This is the way we operate from now on. We can be the best knowledge seekers if the team of specialists we bring in, the management teams don't recognize it, don't see it, don't appreciate it, whatever. Maybe your knowledge and your work will be needed somewhere else or inside a foundation. In the next few weeks, you will hear extensively about how the foundation will start working. I've gone back into the way I ran my business before Keshe Foundation was set up. I'm a hands-off but very strong management team. I thought the knowledge seekers would do that, but we have to understand we had somebody who was very close to us, betraying us by day and night. And you all know, since past year and a half, being kicked out of the foundation, the life of the foundation has changed. We have nobody to betray us, and everything is going according to plan. What we planned, delayed by maybe 5 years, but we are back on track. I am a businessman in root for 20, 30 years at a very high level, and always relied on my consultants and advisors. I hardly work, and we have brought the Keshe Foundation in the same way. You are expert in whatever, there'll be a consulting group which will decide if you carry for what it is, or they go headhunting for those who know who can. 90% of the people will bring in, especially into a space and into other parts, will be headhunted from the biggest organizations around the world with the best salaries.
Yes, understand. I mean, if understood correctly, so you will have this specialist to find the right people, and okay, and organize.
Unless they come to the government. If the Italian government goes to the what we call consulting groups who consult us, and they can say this is the recommendation of the Italian government, we governments we accept directly. But individuals have to pass credential. We had a meeting with the consulting lawyer firms in past 48 hours. All our affairs will go through one lawyering firm that will do everything for the foundation at the moment. It gives me a free hand and the Keshe Foundation a free hand to do what they are good at, and stops the mayhem and stealing and betraying of what we saw in what we call in Ghana, in Italy, and the rest. How we were sold in Italy was just sleeping in the same bed. How we were sold the same in Ghana and other places. And that's gone. Now, anyone has to be accepted and be there. Then secondly, the vetting through national security will be done extensively. Telephone calls, people who get employed by the Keshe Foundation, everything you have is open to us. And some knowledge seekers know in recent past, we send you a message, you receive such a message on your phone, you've been in communication with such a person, we advise you to stop. A few of you have received this message in the past few weeks. We are going and we're becoming very, very professional. It's the way I used to run my businesses, and I believe knowledge seekers will be different, but we've seen not to be so, even though majority are. But those who get to the key position, going to bed with one person or the other, they got their way through it. And it won't happen again.
You also will collaborate with university, with these 3 centers. They collaborating with also.
It all depends how it goes. You got to understand, Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute is a limited company now. It's a GmbH. We have to operate on the rules of the corporation. Keshe Space GmbH now is a space company on the structure of the Austrian government regulations, space regulations. And we follow the same. We bring consultants, they advise us, we bring the specialists, they advise us for everything. But we all tell them in advance, anyone you put to be a consultant has to spend time to understand what is the Keshe Foundation, what knowledge we carry, what we had, that you employ people who fit into our frame. Game has changed for a lot of us, but this way we hope we lose a little bit to the consultants, but we gain more through proper work. In Iran, we have agreed one of the top architects in Iran, present time, worldwide renowned, has joined us as a consultant in the construction of everything we do. I requested him, he was offered, and I approved his to be part of the Keshe Foundation. Well, he is one of the most renowned architects Iran has. Worldwide, he is known for his work. Is employed to be advisor to building everything we do. We do the same with our what we call architects in Europe. We've chosen well-known architects who set up the new CO2 centers, the new enhancement centers, the new water processing centers, the new space centers, all we bring a specialist. And those who are in on top of it, when they see it, when they see the results, they appreciate, is the money well worth spending. And we changed our plan of building something beginning. Now we approach different, and the head of Keshe Foundation have decided to go through what was our way, and now will become 100% our way. We're not going to go to build, we buy in to extend, and it's a different approach.
So it's like you now we bring more in people who can move things in the bigger picture. So people who can do stuff.
Yeah.
So now, yeah, okay, I understand. Yes.
If you have Italian knowledge seekers who are space scientists, but they still don't understand, it'll be very hard. I had one of the top head of, actually not top, but the head of a space agency, ex-head of a space agency on the line for about 2 hours last week. And he was trying to convince me that propulsion, you are using propulsion and you are there with propulsion and use. And I explained to him, no, and he could not understand it. Then you cannot fly if you don't do this. And at the end, our advisor said, Mr. Keshe, we cannot change him. He's 72 years old and he thinks that's the way it goes, and you gotta be. You want to bring him in to stop everybody else working, or you want to leave him? So with our consultant, we decided to let him go. Just because they're in and they're trying to do what they did all their life does not mean you have to understand the change and make the best of it and bring it into the understanding of how it works. I work around the clock at the moment, putting the Keshe Foundation in a proper manner. It took me nearly 9 months to complete, to support the organization of the market as a stock market company, to bring it to be the way I used to be, correct? And now just go and have a look and you see it. Every 2 or 3 weeks, whatever, we have submitted 8 reports, 7, 8 reports into the stock market. And these things don't come cheap. Market pays for it, and we are to be back financially through agreements with them. And the same will be the space station, and the same with the institute and the rest. To make one nation, one planet, one race, you have to create the foundation, the correct foundation. We tried for years, and it came from one failure to another because what we were doing was reported and stopped and blocked and everything else. We were preempted, as it was discussed on the dinner table, to another people's nation's dinner table. And now it's gone. Now we work very solid, and you've seen the change in how Keshe Foundation moves on this. 2 terabytes of information has been delivered to the Iranian national security to create the execution of me. 2 terabytes, and we are in possession of the information by the people we kicked out a year and a half. Lies, cheat, even offering to sleep with them somewhere. What they did for years in Keshe Foundation. We open the doors, you will see. The Iranian national security is baffled. You thought we had it damaged by the guy in Antwerp, Dirk. She's been the boss, telling them what to do and how to damage. 2 terabytes. Your laptops doesn't carry that much. You don't send your enemy to be executed, let alone your ex-husband. Unless you've been working for national security from the beginning. We will open to you a lot to understand how Keshe Foundation has survived, how your knowledge seekers been taught so much in the background. Now everything is in the hand of professionals. You have a knowledge, you think you can be part of the space technology, interact with the consultant, and then pass the national security clearance.
To interact with the consultant, you have to email the Keshe Foundation, I suppose, info@keshefoundation.org.
We will announce it as it's done and the way it's done. If you are in a space business, soon through the space agencies we work with, you'll be informed how to do. You got to realize Keshe Foundation now owns 3 independent research centers of its own. We don't disclose, but we have 3 centers which we research, and all employees are 100%. The company is owned 100% by Keshe Foundation. If we see people appropriate for certain work, they already work without you knowing inside our research centers or to as part of the research.
Yes, understand.
And the knowledge seekers in these research groups, they recommend they listen to all the teachings that are in Rick's teachings, they go through all the news, all the publication, or whatever knowledge seekers do, and they monitor. That's their job. If they see something, they bring it on the what we call board meeting, and we discuss such and such a person we would like to bring in for what reason. We don't disclose, but in a way you got to know how Keshe Foundation has changed, because there's no destructive force in it anymore. You have to deal with the agencies, you have to deal with the consulting groups you bring in. And if they see appropriate, yes. We brought many knowledge seekers, and we found out they're beautiful knowledge, they're beautiful souls, but they don't carry the what we call the knowledge, the expertise.
But suppose one can learn from the other. You know, we can learn from those people who are more expert.
Yeah, but I'm out of this frame of work, because now we concentrate on what we know best and what is to come. The expansion of the Keshe Foundation worldwide, preparation for the 6th of June, preparation for the 22nd of February is all part of our next level of work.
So now the real work starts.
The real work started 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. But we had what we call problems. We solved the problems. Now we have no problem.
Yeah, yes, of course, yeah.
I mean, you were in Italy, you know how hard we worked to build Italy, and we always had a problem. They set a company by the advice of the person we kicked out to set a parallel company to drain Keshe Foundation. They were advised, because in black and white. How can you grow when they advise when you are about to expand to break open somewhere else and steal from the foundation? We have things that be submitted openly. We're just waiting for time and the place.
Yeah, I do understand. I think this is definitely the right move. Yes.
We know it's right.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
Filippo has had his hand up for about 20 minutes. Would you like to come in here, Filippo?
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Keshe. Could you hear me?
Yeah.
I got a question. What about all the knowledge seeker, they operate outside of the foundation. Maybe they have some cooperation with some doctor or stuff like this. Not all the knowledge seeker are interested in space technology. Maybe they look at the technology in other way, and they are happy with a small thing. I mean,
Well,
knowledge.
I understand a lot of people do. A lot of people done this, and we don't have claim over everything. We open the patterns for people to expand it according to their understanding. But the main streams of the Keshe Foundation, as I said to the board of the Keshe Foundation team very recently, we expand the small items. You buy a patch here, you buy a cup there. If you think of it, we have to sell 100,000 cups or 20,000 cups to sell one enhancement unit and develop the technology through it. So there are many knowledge seekers who expand different part of these little, and they make a living out of it, or they expand the research into part of their own work. We see that extensively in Romania. Many knowledge seekers in universities and in Romania have done different research and everything. If we see it appropriate, we ask them to join the mainframe of the Keshe Foundation work. Otherwise, we try to help them or collaborate with them. And we have people in France, we have people in China, we have people, knowledge seekers who make millions out of Keshe Foundation. We know them. We don't disclose anything about it. They take the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation, the part of their own expertise, they mix it together and they get the results, and they're happy with the stream they open, and we support them. But the main work of the Keshe Foundation is structuring things. You will see in the next few weeks that KF Institute, Keshe Foundation Space Institute, will open these channels of research, as we said, groups of minimum 3 to join in and to start expanding. And we support them. And it's a different ball games for us from now on. And it is step by step. It's taken a long time to be where we are now. Maybe we needed these delays and hiccups and whatever in past few years for us to mature, and I think it's the right time to mature.
I think so, Mr. Keshe. But in so many ways, the gift you give us is one of the most amazing thing in my life. I think in the life of many people, playing with technology is amazing. I can't imagine my life without this technology. It gave me so much. In just listening your teaching, just this is so much for me, and I'm happy. Whatever it is, it's amazing. It's amazing.
I hope it helps a lot of people, and I hope we teach freely. And we never know what is the next steps and who you teach, what will they come up with, and how much they can participate, or they do without knowing, candle a light in the knowledge of one person who will bring a lot of other things to it. I've been in recent past in meeting some of the most influential people in the world of science, different sciences, finance, and all sorts, and they tell you, I'm a knowledge seeker. I've been a knowledge seeker for a long time. But I chose to keep and do the things myself without announcing or going anywhere. Knowledge seekers, we have kindled the light of knowledge in the heart and soul of the man. And that's where our revolution comes from. Not on the television channels and media. And I think that's been one of the best things ever happened to any structure like us. We have touched the soul by knowledge, and we have touched the man with it.
It's so beautiful.
They say beauty is an eye of the beholder. How much you can benefit by it. But does it bring you? Does it bring you satisfaction of doing something, or does it bring satisfaction of knowledge? That you become knowledgeable to understand a little bit more.
Both.
That's all it counts. And I said very recently, and I hope all of you find happiness, joy, and peace with, through, and amongst knowledge seekers, and with knowledge seekers, and with the knowledge we are having past year. And it has allowed us to open many, many doors.
You know, Mr. Keshe, I learned English. I spent so much time to improve my English just because you.
I hope your English gets better. At least you teach me some Italian. 6 years in Italy, I didn't learn much. But I hope it gives you a chance to teach.
Maybe. We will see. The thing is, this technology is so playful. It gives me joy to do things. Even by myself, sometimes you reach a point that you need to share it because you want to share it. But I play guitar, I play music, but I understood clearly that music can't reach the playfulness, the pleasure of this technology. And I'm a musician from a long time ago, and I love music, but this technology is more, and this has surprised me. Is more. I can define this technology. The pleasure gives me back. Gives me. I remember sometime, maybe 2 years, 4 years ago. I can't remember when. You talk about extending life, and you make me dream about this, and you give me a lot of pleasure, lot of peace inside myself, and what you give me is I don't need any more anything. I don't. Maybe if I can teach or be helpful, I'm happy for this. But what you give me is so much, and if I can give something back to the Keshe Foundation, it's just because.
Just Just try to teach that you might give the same pleasure to someone else.
I'm doing this. I'm doing this already.
That's all we need to do. The thing is, we don't go back on things, but we told you this, you do that. From the beginning of the Keshe Foundation, we freely taught and we left it for others to take from it what they like and enjoy what they like and be around for as long as they like. And that's all we do. That's all we done. And is unconditional teaching. And to me, if a knowledge has to be taught, doesn't matter what it is, be it the soul, be it the reactor, be it political, whatever. I see it as a betrayal if I don't teach it, and I cannot do. And that's all we got to do, to teach, because you don't know what you trigger, what you put in. And when to stop and when to move on. It's I do the same way. We saw in the very recent past, around about 13th, 14th of December, that there was a huge possibility that the peace talks 5+1 will break up, and for wrong reasons. And on the 15th at 11 o'clock, 11:01, we interfered very heavily, directly. And we saw within a day, 2 days, everything went back on course. And now we see what we wanted is going to be achieved. And because of that interfering on the 15th, now we have stepped out of the 5+1. We pulled. We haven't finished with it. We become what we've been, a guardian. We saw the problem. And the interesting is that I saw this problem 3 weeks before. I knew it's going to come to this point, so we made documents ready for it. And on the 15th of December at 11:01, we hit the Americans with the hardest hammer they could ever be hit. And the claims and everything else just opened up. And now you will see negotiations will complete in the next 2 months. In a satisfactory way. In a beautiful way, the way we wanted it, and we achieved it. We don't need to be there, we done our job. Now it's time to concentrate on supporting the change to come. And that's why John and I, we agreed that we do the first flight testing in Arizona. And we are both working right through it. Even during the holidays, we haven't stopped, we carry on. And the team in Austria, even during the holidays, hasn't taken much holiday off, working. The Chinese are doing the same. Arizona is on the same strength, getting ready for everything. And because we believe in it and we teach it really for it to be there. And the announcement of testing in Arizona is as a feedback to 5+1. I hope many of you realize that. We said we would not transfer technology. The first piece of technology of the Keshe Foundation has already been transferred across Atlantic. It's in the United States. We would have never done this, and that was a special reason for it, and I respect it, and I love to do what I did. And now you will see the space reactors, the vision enhancement reactors will fly directly into Arizona. Arizona will become the center of excellence. It's just the love I have, the respect I have for John, and the sincerity he and I work together to get it done. And it's there and it expands and it'll develop. But that's what I call a peace dividend. Without our working 5+1, we have literally hammered into the heads of the IEA where they went wrong and how they went wrong. The American were informed immediately, and there was no ground to discuss anymore. And now we start. Maybe by 21st of March, a lot of us will see a lot of things because the space reactors, the space systems are physically in 3 different nations getting developed by scientists of the governments and the knowledge seekers who are closely associated with us. As one of the Iranian close to the leadership said, aren't these Belgians ashamed of themselves, trying to destroy one of the most beautiful technologies, sending us 2 terabytes of rubbish to execute you? We appreciate what we have and we protect what we receive. Try to share, try to teach the knowledge, and you never know who you teach and what you teach.
Keshe, let me just, Filippo, have you finished?
Oh, yes.
I was reviewing, I think it was the 411th, and I want to say we welcome the space scientist into the Keshe Foundation. I must have missed it the first or second time through, but you said on the flight enhancement units that on the, I guess the energy that's created and not used by the system would form these little plasmas, I guess on the outside of the shell. And if we didn't know how to disperse it, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but you said if we didn't know how to disperse this energy, that it would actually turn in and could be like a missile towards our own flight unit. Apparently, there's still work to be done with these systems. I don't know if it's a little bit of work or you refer
No. I think you misunderstood.
Sparks on a wheel, sort of.
No.
Okay.
In the interaction of the field, we always have vortexes of fields created new plasmas. And you have to understand, if you can keep these plasmas as a plasma and not allow them to become matter state of the plasma, it's very much like neutrinos. Neutrinos are what we call neutrinos or plasmas. As long as you can keep them plasma, they go through you. As long as you don't allow them to interact, to become interactable with the inertia of the system, due to mass-related interactions, then they become matter and they become a misalgia. And this is a knowledge we know fully and we can change it. There is a very advanced level of knowledge and technology. We are not short of the knowledge, but it's understanding the possibilities and the interaction of the fields. There is a very big misunderstanding in the world of the astronomy and cosmology. We can say a majority of the what we call the light in the sky, what we call, whatever you have a name for it, as we see them, lights or material entering into the upper atmosphere of the earth and burning, are not created by debris from the solar system. Majority of these are created by the interaction of the field of the earth with the field of the moon and the sun and the rest of the solar system, and plasmatic space inertia converts them into matter on the upper atmosphere, and they become instantaneously matter, and then they burn as a bright light in the sky, shooting stars. We have the same position in the flight. Majority of the meteorites, well, not the meteorites, but what we call shooting stars we see, is created by the Earth's plasmatic inertia itself. It doesn't come from the cosmos, it doesn't come from the solar system. The interaction of the fields, they make the carbon or hydrogen or oxygen. If they find, which always find, plasmatic field inertia, they convert in space to matter. This is the way the seed of the stars and moons are set. And we see them as shooting stars. Our space is not so much full of dust that we get so much meteorite continuously coming into Earth and we see them all the time. Earth creates them itself by the interaction of its field with the fields of the larger materials in the solar system and partially through galaxy fields. And suddenly they change into a matter state for a short time, but because they're in a high speed rotation, they become pulled and they become meteorites as we see them, or what we call shooting stars as we see them. It's an instantaneous conversion of the energy into mass, and then by the interaction of the what we call atmospheric motion, they burn back into the wind and they become energy again. This is not known knowledge in the present science. We're always seeing all the meteorites, all the shooting stars coming from the space dust. No. Inertia is not exclusivity of the planet. Inertia has a plasmatic field strength too that can create inertia, and it does happen continuously in our atmosphere. So we have the same thing in our flight system. And there is a way that is being developed that these inertial plasmatic conditions will not allow matter state to take place to become a missile active. If they become as an energy, they go through us or they get absorbed by us. It's a teaching of unknown that it was not known up to now. Now, for the first time, we know. Our shooting stars is created by the direction of our own field of the planetary system, an inertial mass ratio which is created in the upper atmosphere in the plasma. It's instantaneous. And then if it goes through the cycle of the what we call it's more or less transmutation. You get it as a piece of stone or piece of rock somewhere on Earth, if the plasmatic mass is huge. It didn't exist. This meteorite, what you call it, or these pieces of dust you get on the roof was not created, did not exist even 500,000 kilometers from the Earth. We created it through the interaction. We converted from the plasma into a mass ratio and a mass in interaction with the field of the Earth burning out. And that was the reason for this part of teaching, to understand this.
Thank you. That's a new awareness for me. I thought it all was dust or particles from space that were burning.
No, we created ourselves.
Yeah.
This is why our space reactors are very much different than our other reactors. The space reactor flight system is not disclosed yet. They only be disclosed into the space systems which they start developing in 3 nations. Then we teach them.
I have a question about that. Can I?
Yep. I came here as a knowledge seeker. Somehow I got caught in other things. Okay, carry on.
Okay. When neutrino enter anybody's body, it is stay all the time, or it goes or decay?
It goes through you.
Yeah. So it is.
Unless your body or part of somewhere in your organs or somewhere accidentally hits it, or as it's going through it, has the inertial mass conversion of converting into the matter state or another different energy level. Be able to slow it down in
So
the strength.
It is
Or
stay.
reducing its strength.
Okay. And if I die, then where it goes?
It's not neutrino anymore. Now it's part of your body.
Okay.
It goes where the rest goes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Keshe, excuse me. What you described before should to start is more or less what's happening with the cup creating salt. The salt we see on the cup is this is what I try to understand, is the soul of the cup, magnetic gravitational field.
Some bit, yes.
Try to become matter, try to manifest as matter.
No.
Interacting with, okay.
No, some of it goes through that phase, but some of it is interaction of the field of the environment.
With the inertia, because it's
With
so.
inertia. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome.
We don't have any engine in the spaceship, right? So where do we collect the energy in the spaceship? Which side, which part?
Can you repeat?
In the spaceship, there is no engine, right? So which way we keep the energy inside it? How?
I don't understand. You mean there is no engine in the,
Yes, no engine.
Yeah, yeah.
no engine? We work on the basis of the reactor field operation.
Okay. And where do we keep the field? Inside the spaceship or everywhere?
Yes, yes, is operative.
Okay.
Is operative, and we make a lot of calculation in how to be done. In the space reactors in the coming time, you will see an amazing space reactors without containment.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a knowledge unknown, but in a short time coming, you will understand the space reactors, especially for flight, which have no containment.
And when is the spaceship start? That time it vibrate or just suddenly it goes, it fly?
What? First of all, we are negotiating with the financing side for building of new airports. I was discussing it in a very recently with some of our specialists. With the new reactors, with the new what we call space system, we do not envisage side doors the way we are introducing in the present what we call flight system. We see a different way of loading, totally different way of loading. And this is primarily, you have to realize we introduce technology in the steps. And in that step, we allow the scientists to understand it first before we bring in the next step.
Okay, thank you.
The space reactors for deep space travel have no containment. They have no motors. It's very much like a sun.
But I want to know if there is any vibration or anything.
What do you mean?
Like any difference, is shaking or vibration, or when it holds the energy.
You better board one and feel it, and then tell me. The best thing is that Austrian authorities has allowed Keshe Foundation to sell tickets for flights.
Yeah.
Our certificate, what we call our charter, allows selling of tickets. So very soon we'll offer tickets for flights.
Okay.
We are hoping not to be in 250,000 tickets, but some tickets originally might be go for novelty for that kind of prices.
But I like to go to free. Not with $1 million.
Find somebody very, very good friend in the Keshe Foundation space team.
Mm.
You go for free, but the luggage is a little bit more.
I don't need any luggage. I don't need anything.
Yeah, we'll let you your physicality to go free, but you have to pay for your soul transportation. I think that's good. The principle of the flights, we have been working nearly a year, no less than a year, in trying to get KF Space GmbH registered in Austria. And the same with the Spaceship Institute. And now we operate as officially a space organization, not just on the internet, but officially as a company.
Very good. Thank you.
Well, this has been a truly enlightening afternoon or evening, depending where you are, or perhaps morning. Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. And since there'll be no kings and no presidents, I would imagine there'll be no elections, or will these be phased out over a period of time? How will the nation operate or as one nation? How will people know what they need to do, or will things continue on in this sort of manner for a while as it's sort of switched over to a one nation?
There is something for sure. We'll get a unified system. It'll take some time, but we'll get the applicable unified system, because you don't, at the moment, if you live in Europe, you get somebody from Africa or Middle East coming, they put all sorts of restrictions that they can't have the benefits and the advantages that our national can have. For sure, these things will eliminate. It totally will go out, because it's all one nation. It just goes, how can we help you to make your life easier? Not that you're not one of us, you're different. It's very much, those of you who are a German background, you saw what happened with the Turks. Turks were welcome in the Second World War to build Germany, but they were never accepted as Germans with a different passport. Now, as one race, we collectively endeavor to find it comfortable for each other. Doesn't matter where you come from. And it takes some adjustments. It's not going to be so easy, especially those in the West who says we did so much, we done. You got these things on the back of stealing from the others. So now it's time to open up. But at the same time, those who we call others have to understand that it takes time to go through a process and to do it. We learned it again from the Germans when the East Bloc opened. When East Germany opened, they brought them in as one family. They didn't make them second-class citizens. The way German Chancellor brought in the changes in the opening of the East Germany into West is an exemplary job. And its same pattern has to be followed. A lot of regulations and rules become obsolete overnight. We won't have refugees, we won't have people on the boats trying to survive. It's what we can give you when you come, and what we can give you at the point you are that you are the same. It won't happen over a few weeks or a few months, it'll take years to do it. But gradually we'll go. If you go back, we set an example of this in Ghana. Why did we get such a big opposition in Ghana, and why they use it against us? If you remember, we paid the Ghanaians, graduates from the, what we call, master's degree from Atomic Energy University, the same as the basic European wages, which was more than the minister was earning. And this couldn't be. We don't talk, we already started with, so we go back to it. These things takes time. Why do I need to go to another country, leave my family, where I can still go to another country, I go in the morning, I come back in the afternoon, I still get the same wages. I still live a comfortable life as I was working there. So it will bring it. A lot of people will have a lot of false expectation, but gradually will be set. You'll find many people on the streets of India who will born and die on the pavement, Now they want to be equal to a doctor over the others. You have to educate. It takes time to bring in, to change. But a doctor in jungles of Africa who's got a degree from university as a doctor should be respected and valued the same as a doctor in New York or London. Depletion of the resources has to come to an end, and that's part of our work. In a very, very short time, Keshe will announce the opening of 1,000 enhancement centers. About the speed we can open up this enhancement center depends how much machinery we can produce to support it. And then majority of these will be allocated into the third world countries. What is known as a third world, but to us is the nations which have been deprived by being stolen from. And then we enhance to do more. We need about 10,000 enhancement centers to just be able to bring some balance. It's a very, very hard, long road. It's not going to be overnight unless the governments change and everything else changes. Unless, again, as the head of Iran national television said, they show the what we call manifestation of the Mehdi, and the whole world goes crazy, and then we all become equal, and then we all do everything to help each other, and then that's the difference. Then it comes to one point. Who makes the rules? Or who does not make the rule, but guides? And that guidance goes to Universal Council. Then you understand the importance of the Universal Council. And then you understand the importance of the Earth Council. From all nations, but from no nation. Italian member of Universal Council is Italian, but Italian in New York, Italian in South America, Italian in Australia, Italian in Rome, Italian in London. You're all the same because you have one Universal Council. Then you understand what we set up regionally and fundamentally. We are all citizens of one nation. And a good leader makes sure all the members of the citizens of his nation are treated equally. And when there's a shortfall, you cover for them to be equal.
I really like the approach, and I'm sure more as they understand this will also embrace this approach. And it just seems like you've been there and done this before, maybe numerous times. It's just amazing the confidence and the surety you have in the way, again, some things are up in the air, but most things are going in the direction as you have indicated to us over the years. Thank you very much. Jalal, are you with us? You're very quiet today. I was hoping to hear your beautiful voice.
Thank you, Mark. I'm listening.
Aren't we all? A great way, a beautiful impetus to start the 2022. As Mr. Keshe said, we're coming in full blast. So very beautiful.
If you go back, for example, of the history, in the very recent past history, we've seen it. We've seen it 2 or 3 times in the past 100 years, especially in the past 30 years. If a leader of a nation or any leader in any position puts the nation ahead of his position or his ego, you will see he will succeed in what he says to achieve. We've seen that very clearly with Ceausescu, Romanian leader. He put his nation ahead of him and he changed the nation, but outside didn't want to know. It was one of the richest nations in communist bloc. And he paid with his life for those who changed it because they didn't want him to be there to show his success. We saw his success after he was killed, how rich the nation was. The best example we have is Gorbachev. I was lucky enough, I was fortunate enough to be around at the time of Gorbachev. And I admired his work and his audacity and his, what I call, love of his nation was bigger than him. He could have resisted 1919 revolution, and it would have made a bloodbath in Eastern Bloc. He stepped down. He allowed it to go through. And I have praised him many, many times. And a couple of knowledge seekers were with me in Italy very recently, a few years ago, where there was, he was supposed to appear privately in a private conference. There were about 100 people invited by invitation. And I was fortunate enough to be invited. And he couldn't come. We all went to Rome to meet him. He was a close man, but extremely admired. And when I arrived with the other people, we were 2 of us, 3 of us, he sent a message privately that he could not come because of due to ill health, and his wish was to meet. Because we understand people like this, we support people like this. And I wonder if the religious leaders and the world leaders will be as courageous as him to allow the betterment of the nation to be more than their own, what do you call it, pride and position. And always, after the revolution in Russia, what we call Sicily, when it changed, I always stood solid by Gorbachev and admired his work. And he fully knew about my work behind it. And because if we see this, especially Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran, in a stepping down as a religious leader in a manifestation of the what we call Mehdi, and with it carries the rest of the religious group. The same with Vatican. Then we will see a peaceful transition, peaceful time. And the same will go with the rulers of this planet. We're expert in changing things, but we don't do it on our own. You are knowledge seekers. You're the one who changes that seed. We ask you to pray for the negotiators to go. Now, very soon they'll come to you and ask, especially Universal Council, to support the soul of the religious leaders and world leaders to go through this transition of time to one nation smoothly. In the next few weeks, next few days, we'll put that request to Universal Council. You change the word peace, you change the position of negotiation, you understand why now it is there. Now it's time to elevate the soul of the world leaders and religious leaders to go through a transition of one nation, one planet, one race, in a way, one belief, and that's in Creator, with no name as the religion. That's going to be what I call a trump card, that it's needed to go through it. But we need people like Gorbachev, that betterment of the human race takes over than the personal bank accounts and position and titles. I foresee Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran to step down as a religious leader and accept the position of the appearance of Mehdi. And with it, he'll carry the rest of the Iranian nation Islamic world. And with it, Vatican will join. We did not bring the knowledge just to be from Iran. We brought the condition to create the condition of leading, both from the science and the soul. And we expect Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran to step down as Ayatollah while he's alive and accept what we call humanity as one race, which is the promise of the promise. We will see. When we come to you when the time is right, and you will do it and it'll be done. Because you do it through the sincerity of the soul of the Universal Council.
May I say that as already we know, all holy books is written and all religion are waiting for the glory of God. What do you call Mehdi? So I think that the consciousness, free consciousness of humankind is prepared to accept Mehdi, no?
Now accepting it is a different challenge.
I'm speaking about normal people, not about the leaders.
You have to carry the leaders for those who follow to be there behind, to be the believers.
A lot of pioneers from Iran just went in all world to teach about this message of one planet, one nation, as you know. And I think
the whole structure of one planet, one nation, one race is to bring the world leaders to understand as one place, not creating another religion. There is no room for religion as you trying to implement. That's why that religion failed miserably.
yes, I agree with you. I understand.
So is not creating another religion, another sect, another group to be. This is what we call the freedom of the man to understand his position through his soul, and not to create another name, another temple, another religion, another sect, and the rest of it we've seen. What you're referring to failed miserably, became another banking system, which failed again.
It's a pity.
It was put the wrong way. It was set up on the wrong basis. You have to create a condition that does not matter. You talk about the one planet, one race, then it becomes one race as a universal race. Because once you cross that barrier that you're all equal on this planet, you're equal in the rest of the universe. And then the understanding of the knowledge of the creation and the creator becomes easy. That's the difference. There are no churches and religions in the space for no one. Why man has gone this way, maybe it's the way the fire told them to do, but the wrong fire and the wrong light. But now we'll come, we're on the verge of that change. And as I said, we see the breakthrough through Islamic Republic of Iran, both science and religion together.
Mr. Keshe, were you able, and you've probably been in touch with some religious leaders along the way in the last few weeks? Yes, come right in, please.
No, I just came in the last few minutes after Rick's presentation. But you got to realize, Russian church is the last church which Vatican is after to bring into fold of Christianity of Vatican. Is literally the last church. And this is alarming for what I call Russian Orthodox Church. The whole of Ukraine war, or scene of war, discussion, or trying to get into a war position, is to get the Church of Russia under the control of Vatican. It's the richest church in the world and one of the most powerful ones. And who goes to meet who will show you who submitted. If the Russian church leaders to go to Vatican, it means it's finished. They have a handing over the church over. And this has been the cornerstone of the war in Ukraine. Trying to bring the Russian Church, Russian Orthodox Church, onto the control of the Vatican or Illuminatis. It's a very dangerous move, extremely dangerous move. We saw the same thing with the Chinese 4 years ago. I'm being informed and worked with the Chinese government. We warned the Chinese government that the Vatican is about to appoint the first archbishop into China to start destabilizing the Chinese mainland, and we saw it immediately what happened in Hong Kong. And this is extremely alarming. They might come as a way of corona or opposition to, but if Russian Orthodox Church visits Vatican, we can say goodbye to the rest of the freedom of the Christianity altogether. This is the way it works in the religious ground. I haven't heard all of it, but what I heard from our experience and our work, this is alarming, but in a way it's the beginning of the end anyway for all to be together. They might get together, they might find a weakness and get into the what I call plasma danger, but if they work together or they submit together to another, then we see the beginning of the end of the totality. And we'll see big changes in Russia. The backbone of Putin's ruling has been the Orthodox Church. We have to wait and see. We seen the same thing, if you remember, the John Paul as a Polish who became then the Pope was set on the same basis, if your memory stretches that far back. How the miners in Poland started, and then he got involved, and then he became a Pope, and then at the end of it, we found out from the beginning, he was set up to break up the Eastern Bloc by appointing the Polish Pope. And now we see the same. We saw the same thing in China, but in China, we warned the Chinese administration 2 years ahead, and they confined it to Hong Kong, and they managed to control Vatican. But now this is a very alarming if such a case happens. But on the other hand, it's the end of all of them. It doesn't matter how. You got to understand the politic and what goes with the church with the politic. Prime example of it is what we saw in Hong Kong. Everything we saw in Hong Kong, uprising and the rest of it was supposed to happen in the mainland by appointment of the Chinese Archbishop, temporarily Chinese Archbishop, because it was to start uprooting uprising in China. But Chinese securities are waiting for them and can't find it in Hong Kong. And now this is COVID, and then if it's that way, you can raise a huge alarm for the fathers of the Orthodox Church of Russia. But we'll see. Not trying to be pessimistic, but we know too much facts in the background what is going on. The Church of Russia, as I said many times before, is the last church which has not submitted themselves to the Vatican or to Illuminatis. They literally obey what is said by Rothschild. And during the time of the change in Russia, Orthodox Church of Russia supported the freedom groups. And that's how we saw the splitting and breakup of the Russia was supported, especially inside Russia, not to others on 13 countries or satellites. Without the support of the church, Russian Revolution would not have been completed after the 1990s, where the government failed, church supported financially. We've seen the same thing with when Greece, Portugal, Ireland, and they failed to meet the commitments to European community. Vatican paid for it to make sure that the EU does not split up and it stays as part of the Rothschild group. And when they weathered the situation, then we saw immediately German Chancellor was chosen, a German, what do you call, Pope was elected. All the funds which were given to these countries as a backup, as a guarantee of the Vatican, then was transferred to Rothschild's account and made Vatican bankrupt. Well, 4 years gone, immediately the Pope went on the silence, they wouldn't kill him. But the German Chancellor got there for him to abdicate from the seat after he transferred all the funds into what they call Berlin. There's more into these moves in the background, and we have to see what the next one will be.
Wow, very, very interesting.
Yes, you've always mentioned that the losing king always goes and visits the winning king, as with President Trump when he was ordered by China to visit the Pope and to tell him to stop his foolishness or what they were doing in China, or when Trump went to North Korea as well. So we will be on the lookout for that. I was fooled by it as well.
It's not being fooled, it's just the way the structure works from Vatican. We were aware of the sort of splitting of China by Vatican in early 2016 from inside the Vatican. And they knew we are close to the Chinese leadership.
That's why it's important to elevate it both, the politician and the religious leader.
And the scientific world.
The scientific.
We need the scientists to be elevated more than anybody else.
And the knowledge seeker.
That they find a way. But this is the way the politics works. I'm quite aware of these things because I've been involved in Northern Ireland peace process in 1990s. And I've seen how the system works and how the Queen of England submitted and returned Church of England back into the hand of Vatican. You can now the Church of England
That
has
work.
Pardon?
What you did in Ireland worked.
It wasn't it's a group of people. These things done by hundreds of people. We are part of the instrumental in the financial side. But to be, you have to know what everything else is doing that is synchronized. It working on island, 100% working in China, and 100% if there is a Pope or what do you call it, Rothschild have sat for the Russian Orthodox Church, and they go to them, they've lost. You have to watch. It's the church who prepares the people to accept the situation. And the Russian church is extremely influential inside the nation. It's a backdoor to breaking up the Russian Orthodox Church, if that's the way, and they have to be aware of it. Just look, where do Rothschild live? Their headquarters. And always remember the British way of politics. Divide and rule. When you can divide them, you can break them, you can rule them.
Yeah, making groups, and when you make in groups, then you create division through these groups. Like religion maybe could be looked that way.
If I could ask you one last question, Mr. Keshe, you said, I'm the servant to the presence of Mitra. And then we said, you said, we love you, we adore you, and we worship you as a soul. How the worship part sounds like a religion. I know it's not, but how do we, if you can open that up, any part of that, when you say worship the soul of Mitra, does that mean the thinking, speaking, and doing good? If you would, you're speaking, but we're not hearing you. No, we're not hearing. Something's gone wrong there. Mr. Keshe, your microphone is moving, but we're not hearing anything. There it is. No, it is not coming through. We're just hearing some scratching sounds. There's some interference going on somewhere with the microphone. The mic is open, but we're not hearing a word if you're speaking. I think you're quiet.
I think you had a drop and pick up.
You're clear now. It's not coming through if you're speaking. I'm sorry.
You got to understand.
All we heard was you've got to understand. Okay, I think he's left and will come back in. Anyone else? I know it's basically close to midnight, but we're receiving information that's so enlightening and a beautiful start to the 2022 year. As I said, this is the best year that humanity will ever experience, and it'll just keep getting better as the years go by. As he said, no matter what the church is going to do, or try to take over the Eastern Orthodox or whatever, eventually it's not going to work. Let's give Mr. Keshe a couple more minutes and see if he comes back in. But in the meantime, if he does come back in, he can take over the floor. In the meantime, it's, oh, here he is.
Sorry, I got dropped off.
There's some interference on your end, Mr. Keshe. Your mic is open, but we're not hearing a word you're saying if you're speaking.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah, we have a problem with the transmission. We had the same on Thursday, but we had different backups. And it seems that it's ongoing.
Would you like me to repeat the question I had?
Yes,
You said, I'm the servant to the presence of Mitra.
I answered you.
No,
Clear.
we did not hear a word of it.
We are servant to the Creator, and Mitra is the reflection of the soul of the Creator. And in essence, we are there to serve that who has created us. What do you call God? What do you call? Whatever you name it. And man, at the present time, has achieved that level of understanding to understand that through his soul, he serves his Creator. When you serve your Creator and be part of the process of the creation and understanding the process, you don't need a religion, because the way of living is the way of creation and the Creator. Always said, if you ask and you're allowed, you are given the right, there is nothing can go and be done wrong. Doesn't matter what level. And if you ask the Creator or the soul of the Creator through the soul of man, that I like to serve with my soul, the whole of the creation. And then if you are accepted, or in a way you're allowed, or in a way you manage to create that line of connection, then you're servant to his soul. And I am servant to his soul, and no one else. For me, there are no kings and no religion and no prophet. Because at the end of it, they're all his handmaid. And you don't need to be religious or to be anything special. If you ask and you are given, is your right. I wanted to be given the knowledge to serve.
So the worshiping is serving. Yes.
Serving the Creator, yes, but not serving no servants, no bosses and no kings. I've explained this many times, and you just refer to it in what you.
It's not coming through, Mr. Keshe. I'm sorry to report that.
He considers the other to be more powerful, and maybe he can benefit by it or he's in danger by it. And this is a clear example.
I'm sorry, Mr. Keshe, but we're missing almost everything you're saying. You were so clear for the entire day. And now it's something else is going on.
He's sharing the screen now, Mark, so maybe there's some bandwidth interference.
Oh, yes. We've seen this with the King of
Can you
Belgium.
hear me?
Yes, but it seems to be moving in and up and down.
What you just before when
No, it's not working.
this is
It's not working. We're not. Maybe, as Rick said, if you stop sharing the screen, we know this is the King of Belgium.
can
Yeah,
you see
I've
me?
got
Can you
a-
hear me now?
Yeah, Mr. Keshe, if you stop screen sharing, then it'll be better. You'll have more bandwidth for your voice. I've got a picture of your picture here, so I can put that up on the screen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Rick would
This
like
is-
to put the picture up for you.
Oh, I think seen the picture. Many of us seen it many times.
Yes. Mhm.
This is exactly what you said a few minutes ago. That when one goes to the other one submits that this is true, is whatever. When a king of a nation goes to see a man in a remote place and threatens him, it means the man carries more than the king. And this picture will stay historical because we release another picture, which you see the king sit on the same table. He's so scared that he will not approach first. He sends his woman to open the way, to open the talk. The king of a nation should not have a fear of a man, a simple scientist. This picture has a lot of meaning. and this is what it is. It's like you wanting to talk to someone and send your wife first. You go and talk first before I come. The king should approach himself directly. He has that much fear of the knowledge and what it can be done. You will understand a lot of the knowledge seekers will understand when we serve the Creator, we serve not out of fear, but out of joy. Thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you. And this was a man you worked with for 12 years? And he's afraid to sit at the same table?
That's the king of Belgium.
Yes, I know.
And the rat has gone back to him, back to Belgium.
Amazing, what a beautiful, I mean, again, this is not so, maybe so beautiful, but it has a lot more meaning than I probably could see. And this is the man that gave himself immunity as a prince, you've said once, for some.
They have immunity as a royal family to do what they like. Now he doesn't have immunity. But the term of the kings, even the kings are over. This year we'll see the beginning.
Hello. Good night, Mr. Keshe. Have a very beautiful year and everybody else. I use my Zoom with another name because so I had a question. I wanted to ask the people who devote their life to praying, or the old women, is their act kind of worshiping and servicing?
What is the purpose of the prayer? And what is to achieve?
First of all, they have been, I'm sorry, they have been educated like that, and
Yeah, it's just the way you pray 17 times to say the same verses and you forget what the meaning of it was. I'll call it the automatic recording. You know, when you go to the slaughterhouses, when they sell a kosher meat, it's automatic blade, just aware the way what it is recorded by a rabbi. Does the soul of the animal go through the same process and was promised to be? The same when you do the halal slaughtering. Now it's just automatic, where in essence, the man who takes the life gives from his to the life of the animal. For him, body gives him physicality. What is the purpose of the prayer? And what has been said as a prayer?
like we imagine the person is sincere and it's without any personal benefit.
It takes one word, one thought, 1 second to reach the highest level of nearness to the Creator. And it can read and pray for a whole lifetime and never reached it.
And is it kind of
Did you ask? This is the question. Have you asked?
Ask the.
Because when you ask, you think about what you're going to ask. If you're going to the bank to ask for money or for a loan, you already thought what that loan is going to do for you, that funding. When you pray or when you do the prayer, do you ask the right question? Or you do it that it elevates me or be better for me to become closer?
Well, it's supposed to be the second one when they said, I do this for becoming close to God when they start.
Oh, no, but how you, yeah, exactly. You know, just sheep following sheep. Because the other time we do the same one day. You understand?
It's funny because I always said that to them, to some people in any rituals. But if it's sincere and just by
If
love,
it's asked, it's different.
I think it's a benediction. It's a benediction of God.
Benediction, what is a benediction? You use it quite freely.
It means that God gives some people some feelings.
Why does God has to give? Why don't you give without expecting it to receive?
Because it's a facility, it's a gift. And some people work hard, they don't have it. Some people don't work very hard, they have it.
No, it's not gift, it's knowing, understanding.
Maybe it's genetic, maybe it comes from the birth.
Oh, anything. So even a monkey can ask for it. He can understand. So it's a
good one, good one.
It has to be understood.
When we love somebody, we don't ask that person, we just love them.
Yes, we do. We have to. Allow me to love you. Can I love you? The meaning of the love is totally different. I always ask. And because asking somewhere down the line, you're protected from all of it because you've done the right way. If it's not a rite of passage, if you ask, it means you respect to have it. And you respect that you've been given a right, what do you call it? Given the pleasure to be able to.
Yeah, like somebody said, like God gives the race to everybody. Some people take it and appreciate it. That's what I mean by benediction, to take that.
You see, a lot of people go and ask, and what they ask is sincere, and then when they receive it, they keep to what they asked to keep. And we have a lot of it in the Iranian history, a lot of it. And does not matter, you don't need to ask God, you can ask another man, you can ask a stone. But if that asking has been sincere to serve, then you receive. Does not matter, not just in the level of the stone or the dog, but as a totality, because then everything sets to be.
Yes, thank
When you want to kiss a man or a woman, you just don't kiss. You ask, can I kiss you? When you want to hug a man or a woman, says, can I hug you? If you kiss as you think is your right of way because it's your wife or your lover, then you have not taken the way it should be, or hug your child or whatever. I always ask,
because I think you worship, but in your soul, but you do a lot of action with your hands and body at the same time to serve, just not just the soul.
you learn step by step, you learn. Whenever I asked, what I've received has been the best. But I've never taken it as right of the way. And this is the way always has been. And when you ask and you're given, nothing can stop it. Nothing doesn't, even if everything goes wrong, because what was given to you, the right of stays right. When you ask, thou shalt not steal, because you're given. Doesn't matter who things are stolen from, but if you're given the right, we'll see a lot of changes. Man will change a lot.
Yeah, I feel so calm these days. I think it's because of Mitra that I don't even want to break it to talk. That's such
It's
pleasure.
brought us a lot of peace. It's brought us a lot of joy. When the soul of physicality and the dimension of soul matches, meets, created.
Did you say that it's 12 days and then it's gone, or the presence of Mitra, you said?
This time is for eternity.
So 12 days we can go on.
It's the change for totality in principle. The old ancient Persian belief in Mitra was celebrated for 12 days. And it was a bigger celebration, as I said before, than the Nowruz. Since Islam has come to Iran, the 12 days have been moved to Nowruz more, where in Nowruz we used to celebrate the same. The birth of the Mitra is the soul of the Creator. And Nowruz, 21st of March, is the start of the new cycle in the physical dimension of the planet Earth, what we call the soul of physicality.
Thank you very much for the opportunity you give us to advance in every sense of the word.
Maybe we understand the paper written, that the position of the scientist as a prophet and prophets of the soul, This time will become unisys. Both will be in one. Then you can enjoy in both direction and dimension. As you understand the knowledge, you understand the power of the soul. And as you strengthen the knowledge of the soul, you understand the two dimensions of the physical life, which brings the science. As I said to someone very recently, there is no science in the dimension of the soul. Science belongs to the dimension of physicality and the matter.
And do you consider emotion part of physicality?
It depends which one learns from it. Does the soul of the man learn from it, or does the soul of physicality learn from it?
Because I think that's the problem these days. the emotion play a hindering role.
Emotion always has that role. It's a test, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
If you look at it, your emotion is your tester.
Yeah, I've thought about that.
So depends which side of the fence your emotion drops.
It's not too heavy. It's just a game. I think these days it's even more easy to get contact with emotions. But I think that's the problem of human being, to control emotions, to get to the soul easily.
Maybe you get through to emotion to get to physicality easily, to abuse the physicality easily.
Of course, it's the physicality which is getting abused. Exactly.
We'll see.
Thank you.
Okay.
I wanted to correct myself, if you permit. It's bothering me. The other day when I talked about the Declaration of Human Rights, which is in the United Nations, you were absolutely right. It's done by Kurosh. I confunded with another lecture. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it
It's
sits
by
at the,
Kurosh. I'm sorry.
sits at the, what we call, it's the cornerstones of the United Nations belief and ethos.
Sorry.
Very rich.
Thank you.
Thank you, Myrnes. Even though we've never met, you're a very interesting and beautiful Persian woman. Thank you for joining.
It's good you haven't met. Oh, all of you, you're all beautiful, really. What I saw about the organizations, Raphael and all that, it was just wonderful. It was just wonderful what's done. Beautiful. I'm just very happy about all this. And as Mr. Keshe said, everybody puts a small bit of it, and we advance, all of us.
Well, this has been a fantastic beginning to the start of 2022 with some very unexpected and beautiful announcements by Mr. Keshe. This recording will be in the telegrams in a couple of hours or so, depending on how long we continue, but it's been very beautiful for me, and I hope all of you as well. To see what's here, to see what's coming, and to see what can be. And it's all of us, as we all carry a corner of this very large carpet, let's say. Mr. Keshe, it's been delightful to be with you today, as always is. Is there anyone else who wants to bring anything else, or Mr. Keshe, if you haven't run out of gas, is there anything else?
Thank you very much for letting me be here and sharing some thoughts. And maybe we bring a new dimension, new change, and we'll see. There is a lot to learn. There's a lot to share. And we always have to work through the tools of man. We'll see what will come. In so many ways, what has been promised for past thousands of years is to be fulfilled this year from now on. And it's the beginning of that change. Everything has been set, everything is ready for it. And now is time to make, as we'll say, the cake and eat it. Everything needed to bring man to accept peace and become a peaceful being, not just because of the conditions, but to become mature to understand, has been said to be there. We see some what are called skirmishes for those who want to prove they have the power to shoot a bullet or two, but in essence, we have started a cycle of peace, and with it, what was promised. When the man becomes peaceful, as you call it, the door of heaven shall be opened to man. And we have just unlocked the door. And we'll see it to open up very soon. And then what has been promised will be fulfilled. That's my job, to make sure it's fulfilled.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.